What if your goodness is the very reason you're losing in life? In a world ruled by cunning wolves, the kind-hearted sheep get eaten. Today, we uncover the dark side of goodness and how Machiavelli would teach you to weaponize virtue instead of being destroyed by it. They will tell you to be good. They will urge you to turn the other cheek, to be honest, generous, and humble, to do what is right. But I ask you now, not as a philosopher, but as a man who has seen empires crumble and kings beg for their lives. What has that goodness ever earned them? You imagine goodness is a shield, but in truth, it is often a mask, a beautiful, fragile mask, worn by those who fear conflict, who hope the world will repay their virtue with kindness. It will not. Let me be clear. The man who is good for goodness' sake, who believes the world will reward him for his decency, is the first to be devoured. Because in the arena of power, goodness is not seen as noble. It is seen as an opportunity, a weakness, a flaw to be exploited. The kind man offers his trust easily. He believes in the decency of others. And while he speaks of honor, his enemies plot. While he waits for fairness, the wolves surround him. While he forgives, they prepare their second strike. This man is not respected, he is predictable. And that, my friend, is fatal. You think goodness protects you, I say it exposes you. The world is not governed by moral law. It is governed by hunger, for power, for control, for advantage. And those who play by rules that others do not recognize are simply setting themselves up for defeat. The man who says, "I will never lie," is easily lied to. The man who says, "I will never betray," is the perfect pawn for the one who will. And the man who believes that kindness alone will win loyalty, that man will spend his life wondering why those he helped were the first to abandon him. Look around you. In every court, in every chamber of power, you will find men wearing masks. Masks of humility, masks of generosity, but behind their smiles lie calculations. They do not trust simply because someone appears good. They trust when it is safe to do so, when they can control the outcome. That is the difference between appearing good and being naive. When I walked the corridors of the Medici court, I saw men executed not for crimes, but for trust. Yes, for trust. They trusted too deeply, too quickly. They revealed intentions. They exposed alliances. All because they believed their goodness would be seen, honored, preserved. But politics and life are not arenas of preservation. They are arenas of conquest. And goodness without defense is not virtue. It is bait. And here is the true tragedy. Many of these men were good, loyal, just full of belief in higher ideals. But they mistook those ideals for reality. And reality, as I have learned and as I have written, is a beast uninterested in ideals. It responds only to strength, strategy, and the quiet ability to strike without warning. You believe that if you are good, others will be good to you. I understand. It is a beautiful idea. But beauty has no place in survival unless it is used like a weapon, like honey used to catch a fly. So what is a man to do? Abandon goodness altogether? No, that would be foolish. Appear good. Let them see it. Let them believe it, but never let your survival depend on it. You can be good, but not because you are weak. Be good because it serves your image. Be generous because it secures loyalty. Be kind because it creates debt. And if ever your goodness is challenged by danger, do not hesitate to become the very thing they never expected, ruthless. Because the world does not reward virtue. It rewards those who make virtue serve their ambition. It is not the good man who survives. It is the man who understands how goodness works and how to make it work for him. What happens when a man clings to morality without understanding power? When he obeys every principle, even as the ground beneath him shifts, he becomes a martyr, not of war, but of his own blindness. You see, there is a particular kind of ruin reserved not for the wicked, but for the idealist, and this ruin is not sudden. It is slow, humiliating, and final. The kind of destruction that happens when a man keeps doing what's right, while everyone else simply does what works. The problem is not morality. The problem is morality without direction, morality without teeth, morality that floats, untethered from strategy, like a sermon recited in the middle of a battlefield. The arrows do not stop for it. The swords do not lower for it. The world does not shift for good intentions. I have watched men lead with noble hearts and clean hands, and I have watched them fall like wheat beneath the blade, not because they were evil, but because they were unprepared. They mistook principle for preparation. They believed righteousness would be enough, and those who did not share their morality, those who smiled and agreed, while secretly plotting, rose above them effortlessly. Morality is a beautiful illusion when it lacks the spine of strategy. A man can swear loyalty to justice, but if he does not understand how to maintain control, his justice is just noise. And worse, it becomes dangerous to himself and to those he claims to protect. For what can be more dangerous than a leader who insists on being good, while the enemy sharpens his sword? What is more reckless than a ruler who forgives enemies that still draw breath? He believes he is making a statement. The world believes he is making a mistake. Now understand me clearly. I do not speak against values. A ruler must have values. A man must have internal laws, but they must never stand above survival, because once you fall, your values fall with you. Your morality dies with your name. The people who once praised your integrity will kneel to your successor and forget that you even existed. This is the cruel mathematics of power. The wise man, then, must treat morality as a weapon, not as a leash. He must decide when to reveal it, when to use it, and when to set it aside. Morality must be placed in the service of strategy, not strategy in the service of morality. The moment you reverse this order, you are no longer in control. You become a slave to your own code, while others use flexibility as a weapon. History does not remember the most moral. It remembers the most effective, and effectiveness is never pure. It is never clean. It requires compromise, deception, sacrifice. Those who fear this are not ready to lead. They are not ready to rule, because ruling is not about showing people how good you are. It is about protecting your position, your vision, and your people, even if it means doing what makes you hated in the moment. There are times when the morally right action is also the strategically stupid one. And in those moments, the truly powerful choose strategy. Not because they have no soul, but because they know that morality without survival is meaningless. What good is your honor if you are dead? What good is your fairness if your enemies are celebrating your fall? What good is your virtue if the future belongs to those who betrayed you? And this is where most men fail. They try to live in a world as it should be instead of as it is. They expect to plant the seeds of morality and grow justice without realizing that the soil itself is poisoned, that the rules others play by are different, that the smiles they receive are masks. The prince who hopes to rule by example alone, without contingency, without manipulation, without strength, he is not a prince. He is a candle in the wind, waiting to be snuffed out by the first storm that does not care how brightly he burned. He will not understand why his goodness failed him. He will curse the world for not following his code. But the world does not follow codes. It follows power, so you may keep your morals. But first, learn to protect them. First, learn how the world works. Then decide what values are worth showing, and which must be hidden behind locked doors, guarded by your understanding of human nature. Because only the strategist survives long enough to make morality matter at all, every man wants to be liked. It is natural, it is comforting. There is a warmth in being praised, accepted, embraced. But what most fail to understand, what they are never taught, is that being liked is one of the weakest currencies in the pursuit of power. It is fleeting, fragile, and fatally deceptive, because the same crowd that cheers your name today will abandon you tomorrow when the wind shifts. The applause of the people is a fickle mistress. It has no spine, no loyalty, no weight, so I ask you, would you rather be liked or obeyed? Would you rather inspire admiration or command respect, even fear? The answer defines whether you will rule or be ruled. There is a great lie in the world of leadership. A lie sold by philosophers, poets, and fools. They say, be good, and the people will follow. Be kind, and they will love you. Lead with your heart, and the world will reward you. But what they never tell you is this: love is conditional. Love is earned and easily lost. It depends on your usefulness. It depends on your constant validation. The moment you stop giving, they stop loving. The moment you say no, the love turns to resentment. And once that happens, you are finished. But fear remains. Now do not misunderstand me. I am not speaking of cruelty nor of barbarism. I do not advise savagery for its own sake. I speak of control, the kind of control that does not need to shout, the kind that walks into a room and silences it. That is not born from being liked. It is born from presence, from unpredictability, from the understanding that while you may be fair, you are not soft. That while you may be just, you are not naive. That while you may be calm, you are capable of storms. Those who aim only to be liked fall into a dangerous trap. They compromise too quickly. They please too many. They say yes when they should say nothing. They apologize when they should remain silent. And in doing so, they lose something more valuable than affection. They lose leverage. They lose authority, because a man desperate to be liked is a man easy to manipulate. The courtiers will sense it. The rivals will test it. The people will exploit it. The moment they realize your decisions are guided by your fear of disappointing them, they own you. You are no longer leading, you are reacting, and a reactive leader is no leader at all. Now consider the one who is feared, but not hated. There is a difference, a critical one. Hatred invites rebellion, but fear, when built carefully, invites obedience. The people know your limits. They know what line not to cross. They may not love you, but they respect your word. They follow your commands, not because they desire your approval, but because they understand the consequence of defiance. That kind of rule lasts. It lasts because fear does not ask to be maintained. It reinforces itself. Once it is established, you no longer need to enforce it daily. The idea of your retaliation, the possibility of your response, is enough. It lives in their minds, not in your hand. That is power. Love is noisy. Fear is silent. And silence is where control lives. Now some will protest. But is it not better to be loved and feared? Yes. In a perfect world, it is ideal. But the world is not perfect. The world forces you to choose. And if you must choose, the wise always choose fear. Because a man who is feared can survive the betrayal of love, but a man who is loved and never feared will never survive betrayal. I have watched rulers give everything to win affection, only to be overthrown by the very people they fed. I have seen kind men become scapegoats, their popularity evaporating the moment the kingdom faced hardship. People love you when things are good, but when the fire comes, they look for someone to blame. and if they do not fear you, they will turn on you without hesitation. So be careful of smiles, be cautious of praise, and never make your decisions through the lens of approval. Those who chase affection lead with their necks exposed. They forget that the crowd can cheer and still sharpen the axe. Power is not inherited. Power is not given. Power is taken, shaped, forged, and maintained by those who understand its mechanics. And among those mechanics, two forces reign above all others: virtue and deception. Now, most men fail because they try to separate the two. They imagine that one must either be noble or cunning, moral or manipulative, good or strategic. But those who truly hold power understand something deeper, darker, and infinitely more effective. The secret is not in choosing between virtue and deception, but in mastering both and using each when it serves best. Let us speak first of virtue, not the hollow church-fed version of virtue, but the classical Italian meaning: force of will, boldness, skill, command over fate. Virtue is action. It is decisive. It is the ability to shape your circumstances rather than be shaped by them. A prince with virtue does not wait for opportunity. He creates it. He does not beg for respect, he commands it. He does not dream of change, he becomes the agent of it. Virtue is the fire in the eye, the steel in the voice, the authority in every movement that signals to the world, I will not be moved. But virtue alone is not enough. The world is not ruled only by strength. It is ruled by perception, illusion, appearances, and this is where deception enters. Deception is not the opposite of power. It is the language of power. You must appear merciful when necessary, appear honest, appear just. But you must know when to lie, know when to betray, know when to wear the mask that hides the hand reaching for the dagger. Deception, when used wisely, is not betrayal. It is strategy. It is survival. The lion rules with strength. The fox survives with cunning. But the man who becomes both, he is unstoppable. That is the balance. You must possess virtue to act with force, and the mind of the fox to know when not to. You must be feared but not hated, loved but not exposed, generous but calculating, appear as one thing while being another entirely. And when the time comes to strike, it must be unexpected, absolute, and final. The mistake most rulers make is believing they must be one thing. Always strong, always just, always transparent. This rigid consistency is not admirable. It is predictable. And in politics, in leadership, in any game of power, predictability is death. You must be unreadable. You must be complex. Your enemies must never know which version of you they are dealing with. And even your allies must occasionally wonder. I once wrote, "It is not necessary for a prince to have all the good qualities, but it is necessary to appear to have them." This is not hypocrisy. This is rule. This is control. The people want to believe in their leader, so give them that belief. Let them see kindness, let them hear conviction, but let your true intentions remain known only to yourself. If you can master this duality, this balancing act of image and intention, there is no throne you cannot sit on, no enemy you cannot outplay. The ones who fail are always the ones who show too much emotion, too much truth, too much transparency. They believe that honesty breeds trust, but in power, honesty only breeds exposure. And once you are exposed, you are vulnerable. And once you are vulnerable, your enemies have all they need. You must move like smoke, visible, but unreachable. Your words must be layered. Your silence must be calculated. Your promises must always carry escape. And through it all, your core must remain unshakable, rooted in virtue, guided by deception. That is where true power lies. Not in being feared alone, not in being loved alone, but in being both, and neither, in being the architect of your own image, in using people's need for morality as a mirror to control them, while never letting yourself be bound by it. You were taught that goodness is a virtue, that honesty brings reward, that kindness is strength. But what they never told you, what they were too afraid to say, is that goodness without power is prey. That virtue without strategy is a knife pressed against your own throat. That the world does not bend to ideals. It bends to those who shape it. You see now that to survive, to lead, to dominate, you cannot afford to be good in the way they told you. You must learn the art of appearing good while wielding the discipline of a ruler. You must balance virtue with force and compassion with calculation. Not to become cruel, but to become untouchable. Not to abandon your values, but to protect them with the armor of reality. This is not a world for the naive. It never was. This is a world that rewards control, adapts to strength, and fears the man who plays both lion and fox. So the question is no longer, how do I stay good? The question is, how do I use goodness without being used by it? That, my friend, is the lesson Machiavelli came to teach. Not how to abandon your soul, but how to sharpen it into a weapon.